Hello and welcome to Season 3 of Sustainapod, a youth-led podcast for young people and anyone passionate about issues related to sustainability in Asia. My name is Belinda, and today I'll be co-hosting this episode with Chinny, one of the newest members of our growing Sustainapod team. We're very excited to be deep diving into this episode today on the topic of sustainable diets. In recent years, the link between food consumption and climate change has become an increasingly hot topic, literally, but also in practice. And the special report on climate change and land by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released earlier this year describes plant-based diets as a major opportunity for mitigating and adapting to climate change and includes policy recommendations to reduce meat consumption. We're very lucky today to be joined by my friend Natalie Cheung, a final year student majoring in environmental management and technology at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Natalie is a selected member of Project Melo, a platform that connects undergraduate students directly with CEOs in Hong Kong to collaboratively implement impactful projects, which Natalie and her team has done in the field of food sustainability. So welcome, Natalie, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Belinda. Thanks for inviting. Perhaps I could first introduce about Project Melo, because before talking about our group's sustainable food competition, because without Project Melo, there wouldn't be our sustainable food competition. So Project Melo, it's founded by 4 leaders, including Kenny, the CEO of Two Sigma Asia Pacific, Stephanie, the executive director of Joy Land, Arthur McKinsey partner, and Louisa Mack, Miss Hong Kong of 2015 and also now a management consultant. And as you've said, Project Melo is a platform for young people like us to connect and collaborate with leading CEOs of different industries to create positive impacts to the community. And yeah, it's a good opportunity for us to learn. And so Melo program actually was divided into 2 parts. The first part is called Joint Discovery. So it's basically a series of sharing events from different successful leaders, like CEOs or leaders were invited to share their stories with us. Like we had a conversation with Betty Liu, the vice chairwoman of New York Stock Exchange, and we also talked to Dominic Barton, Canada's ambassador to China, and also former McKinsey global managing partner. And we also met different CEOs like Randy, the CEO of McDonald's. So yeah, meeting many different CEOs and of different fields. So this is the first part of Melo. And the another part, it's called co-creation, is how we did the sustainable diet project. So co-creation was connecting 2 students with 1 CEO, and we worked together to deliver a project that aims to bring positive impacts to society. And our group's project was to work on climate change issues. So that's the background of Project Melo and our sustainable diet competition project.
So your team worked directly with the CEO of Shui on Land to organize a sustainable food competition. Can you tell us more about why you decided to take this?
In fact, I could share more about why we are working with Shui on and why we are doing this. So basically, in the co-creation part of Project Melo, my group, my Melo peer and I, we were working with the CEO of Hang Lung Properties, while another group was working with the CEO of Shui On. And since both groups have the same topic, which is climate change, and both CEOs were also from the real estate sector. So, and then 4 of us just thought that it might be a good idea to combine 2 groups and work together on climate change together. And then eventually, we explored different ideas, and then we decided to host a pilot project in Xintiandi. It's a revitalized project in Shanghai, a development project of Shui On. And then our idea is that we believe that everyone has to eat, right? And we think that if we could promote the awareness of sustainability by promoting sustainable food consumption or vegetarian food consumption, then it might be an easier way to encourage people to reduce their carbon footprint in their diet. Yeah, so that is why we started this.
That's really cool. And I fully agree with you that it's so important in this day and age to focus on promoting plant-based diets to address climate change. So on this idea of sustainable food, can you explain more about what it is exactly that is, what are the kind of different impacts that people can have through their consumption that you were trying to promote through your project?
Yep, so there are different aspects of sustainable food. Like in our project, it's actually a vegetarian sustainable food competition. We try to engage the F&B tenants in on Xintiandi, and we hold a food competition for them, and we basically recreated a methodology to assess the most sustainable food. And there are different parts. Like, firstly, is the environment score. Like, we looked into the food origin, like where do the food ingredients come from? Is it local produce from Shanghai or other parts of China? If yes, then they have a higher score. Or in contrast, if they import food from overseas, then they might have a relatively lower score because of the carbon footprint from shipping. And secondly, we also try to look into how organic is it. Like if they can provide some certified organic food ingredients in their dish, then we might give them a higher score. And other than environmental sustainability, we believe that health is also an important criteria for sustainable food. And then we try to incorporate the nutritious level of the food, like how much proteins, fats, carbohydrates, sodium, vitamin, etc. And we give a higher score for the dish that has a more balanced nutritional level. So other than taking the environment and the nutrition aspect of the food, of the dish, we also think that taste is a very important criteria, right? Because in order to promote sustainable food consumption, we have to make it enjoyable to eat. So we also included a popular voting. Like after the customer finished the dish, they could rate them, give a score. And we also recruited some expert panel to give a score according to the dish taste, the dish quality, color, appearance, etc., and extra points for creativity and cooking difficulty. Yeah, so that's the methodology that we used for assessing what is sustainable food.
That's a really insightful description. What do you think was the biggest challenge in the process of organizing this competition? Were there any like really big setbacks?
Yeah, we do face quite a lot of challenges, not just working with F&B tenants, but thinking what to do. Because Project Melo has given us a really free opportunity. So the first challenge is that we took a lot of time to decide what to do. Like originally, our group doesn't have any idea what to work on. We just know that, oh, we have to do something about climate change and sustainability. Eventually, we think that everyone has to eat, right? And we all love eating. So we finally made a decision to work on the sustainable food theme. And the second challenge is that when we finally decided what we want to do, how to do it is another challenge because we have to firstly define what is sustainable food. And as I just explained, we have created a really kind of complicated scoring methodology. Like we have to ask the restaurants to provide a lot of details of the dish, like including the weight of the dish and all the ingredients they used, the sources and the origin of the food. And if they have some organic certifications, they have to provide us. And we also ask the restaurants to list out all the proportions of ingredients, like how much salt they use, how much oil they use. Perhaps the challenge is that even the restaurants can't give us that much details. But then eventually, like it's really lucky that the restaurants are willing to like give us that as much information as possible. And so eventually we're able to give a score and assess the sustainability level of their dish.
Well, I think it's amazing going from no clue at all what to do to finally delivering the output this whole journey. I'm sure that you've learned a lot from working with others and overcoming these different challenges along the way. So, one thing I was super curious to know about is the unique opportunity to work directly with a CEO. Like, how was that? How did you find that? And were there any key takeaways from this experience?
Yeah, of course. I'd say this project is a really unique and rewarding learning experience. You know, CEOs are very busy and they are willing to spend the time with us. And we're just undergrad kids who have no working experience, who don't know many things, but they are willing to spend quality time to brainstorm ideas with us, like hold regular meetings with us, and they gave us professional and helpful feedback on our ideas, and even connected us with other founders and CEOs. Like, as I just said, we were so lost in a project, we don't know what to do. We said, oh, we want to work on sustainable fashion. And then the CEOs immediately connected us with the founder of some sustainable fashion brands. Like, we met the CEO and founder of Innotier, which is a sustainable brand selling reusable masks and other fashion products. And then after a while, our group said, oh, actually we actually want to work on food, sustainable food. And then the CEO immediately they invited us to talk to the founder and CEO of Greencom. I'm really thankful for all the time, resources, connections, and support that CEOs shared with us. And most importantly, working with CEOs, I really learned a lot from them, and I spot some common characters of CEOs. Firstly, they're all humble people. Like, they always emphasize the importance of keep learning, which inspires me, as only if we keep improving ourselves can we improve our society. And secondly, they are all positive and adaptive people. There are many environmental and social issues in this changing world, and CEOs have inspired me that we have to stay positive, adaptive, and resilient. And this not only applies to how we deal with sustainability issues, but probably also in our own career path or our life. So working with them was a really unique and rewarding experience.
That sounds like such a fun and educational journey. So speaking on the context of plant-based diets, what do you think needs to be done in the Hong Kong context to increase like conscious consumption and increase the adoption of plant-based diets? How do you think we can get more Hong Kong people to start thinking more about plant-based?
Well, I think we need solutions to turn awareness into actions. I read a report from Consumer Council, which is released last year. It said that generally Hong Kong people are aware of the need of sustainable consumption. Like, they're aware that it's more eco-friendly to consume less meat. But the problem is how to turn awareness into actions. Most of us already know the benefits of plant-based diets, which is good to both our own health and the earth's health. But why is plant-based diet still not the key trend? I guess we could work on a few aspects. Firstly, accessibility. Imagine if you walk into a shopping mall and there is no vegetarian restaurant at all. Then how can we increase our adoption of plant-based diet? So accessibility and options is very important. If there are more options, then it's easier and more convenient for us to, and more choices for us, so that we can find a good plant-based diet or consume vegetarian meals more easily. And the second thing is, I would say taste is very important. Like, if we could make a plant-based dish more delicious, then of course people will be more willing to try it and to maybe even develop a vegetarian habit. And lastly, health is another aspect. Like, when I talk to my friends, I know that some people think that vegetarian food isn't necessarily healthy. Like, for example, some vegetarian food is processed, perhaps comes with many additives, or maybe it's fried dried, which makes it too oily to consume. So I'm not saying vegetarian food isn't healthy. What I mean is, in Hong Kong, perhaps more promotion is needed to educate the public how to eat vegetarian in a balanced and healthy way. And that is also why we are hosting a sustainable food competition instead of just vegetarian food competition, because we want to cover both the environment, the nutrition, health, and of course the experience of food consumption. Like, it has to be healthy, environmentally friendly, and it should be enjoyable too.
I agree so much with everything you just said. I think there's so many factors that play into what is a sustainable diet, and really drawing that link between nutrition and health really helps to make it more personal for people, rather than just saying like, oh yeah, the climate is changing, so we have to eat plant-based. And just a few thoughts to add on to that as well. Meat is such a big cultural thing in the diets of many Hong Kongers. I know Green Monday is doing a lot of this now, working on creating these alternatives that taste really good and is a really good way to ensure really that there is this gradual change. And I think also perhaps in younger generations, they might be more receptive towards these ideas, like definitely in the wider kind of climate movement itself, the youth are the ones that really push for this. So intergenerationally, I think if there was more dialogue in this space about healthy eating and what a sustainable diet is, it could also do a lot more to increase conscious consumption in the Hong Kong context. So my next question for you is, speaking on this idea of messaging, which you also mentioned, how do you think social media can play a role in pushing the adoption of sustainable diets?
Well, you're right that social media is actually very important. Imagine if there is there are famous people or KOL who are developing vegetarian diet and even promoting it, then they can encourage more people to like follow them and consume vegetarian meals. And I know that, for example, Green Monday, they have some green ambassadors, like they will invite some KOLs to promote vegetarian eating. So I think that's one of the examples that showing social media plays an important role to encourage more people to join this movement, to stay healthy and also to eat in a way that is good to the environment.
That's a really good answer. I think the bit about green ambassadors is something I see a lot, but on this subject, what would you want to say to people who might be hesitant about branching out with their diet? I know a lot of people who would like to go sustainable with their eating, but are just kind of hesitant about the drawbacks that it would have or the limits that it has. And so what would you like to say to that?
I guess the reasons for everyone is not the same. Like some people may think that, oh, I don't want to eat vegetarian because I I think I won't feel full after eating it. Or some people doubt whether having vegetarian meals is really means healthy. So I think the most important thing to branch out with their diet is to just to try first, like try to find good food that is vegetarian, food that is tasty, that interests you, that makes you enjoy eating. And secondly, I know that some people may give too much pressure on themselves. Like I have friends who want to be a vegetarian or vegan immediately. And then they try to stop eating meat suddenly. And then it turns out they couldn't get used to it and eventually eating more meat. So perhaps we need some time to change our diet. Maybe we can try to be a flexitarian first and then slowly figure out which diet is more good for you. And yeah.
I'm so loving this conversation right now about choices and this idea of like easing yourself into it, because too often I think it is very easy to get exposed to all these different messagings and then be like, I can do this, I can do that. But it is really about tailoring, as you said, to your own personal, how your body responds and all this. I wanted to shift the conversation back a bit upstream to the F&B providers that you engage with in your project, because I think it's very interesting that you mentioned earlier that there's this idea of transparency. Like you need them to disclose, for example, what ingredients they're putting into their dishes, where they're sourcing from. And I'm just wondering, on the issue that sometimes they might be reluctant to disclose, for example, do you feel like there's a general trend in the industry right now that more and more restaurants are willing to do this for the sake of sustainability, or is it still at the very early stage right now where I guess only the really keen ones will want to do something like this?
Hmm. Well, I guess perhaps it's not that they're reluctant to disclose about their ingredients, but perhaps they don't even know, oh, they're not aware of the sources. And like when they source the food ingredients, sustainability wouldn't be the first top priority. Perhaps more important to restaurant, it's the price or whether it has a stable supply or the taste. Yeah, so what we're trying to do is to through this sustainable food competition to tell the F&B tenants and tell the restaurants that in fact sustainability can be an important element and that you can incorporate when you design a meal. Yeah, like you can try to be more aware of the origin of the food and whether they are organic, are they certified, and even the carbon footprint of each ingredient that they use. Yeah.
That's really, really insightful. Do you think price of the products play a role in the adoption of plant-based diets? I know you said about how restaurants don't really prioritize sustainability as the factors that go into their food, but do you think price of more sustainable options can play a role in how restaurants can change their ways?
Yeah, price is very important thing in the market. Like if plant-based diets can be tasty, healthy, and also affordable, then of course consumers will definitely consider having vegetarian meals more often if it's easily accessible and affordable. I guess perhaps food technology plays a role as well. If, for example, if plant-based meat they are in a lower cost and plant-based diet can be cheaper and more affordable, then there would be more options for consumers to choose.
I really agree with what you said. I think by kind of shifting everyone's perspectives, we can definitely increase the consumption and adoption of sustainable diets a lot more. How do you think government policies or local policies can support this focus on plant-based diets?
Perhaps if government can join in promotion, like educating people the importance of healthy and sustainable eating. And secondly, the government can also perhaps provide some incentives or more support to the sustainable food industries. As after all, it would be great if they could get more support or financial support to make sustainable food more common, more affordable, and easily accessible.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for sharing all your insights. I really learned a lot today. And thank you to the Sustainapod listeners for tuning in this week with us. We'd love to hear from you about this episode, so let us know your questions or comments by messaging us on Instagram at sustainapod_GIH or message us at sustainapod@gmail.com. Thank you.